What's up, everybody? It's your girl Megan, SHOWUP fitness instructor. And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, I also instruct our NASM course for our online internship every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So if you're trying to pass that NASM CPT, hit me up and then get you to do that. Now, more importantly, after you pass that NASM, we can help you actually learn how to become a great personal trainer here at SHOWUP Fitness, where we have this guy over here. He's actually going to talk about his experience, how he went through the internship, how he just got a job at Equinox. But before we do that, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram at ACT7VE, as well as at SHOWUP Fitness and SHOWUP Fitness Internship. Now let's get to it. All right, your turn.
That was good. Hello guys, my name is Joseph. I am a former intern here with SHOWUP Fitness. I just graduated maybe a month ago. So, whee. I just wanted to take a moment to kind of talk about the experience that I had with my interview process with Equinox. Just kind of talk about how SHOWUP Fitness helped me kind of get that job in the first place, because honestly it wouldn't have happened without them. And just answer any questions that the class might have for today. So
yeah.
So first off, I'll just kind of talk about how the internship helped me. Obviously, big thing with SHOWUP Fitness is helping people understand anatomy, business, when it comes to movement patterns or like adding value to your clients' sessions. Those are all very important parts of being a successful personal trainer. All of those things kind of helped me when it came to the practical interview, which I'll kind of talk about. So I'll pretty much just start off with the first location that I signed up with. So it was an Equinox Sport, which typically those are like larger locations. This location was like a 5-story location, so pretty huge, pretty big, like behemoth to tackle. So it was cool to have that experience. So it started off, I pretty much applied to this location on maybe like a Thursday or a Friday. They got back to me on a Monday morning the next week. And they pretty much emailed me to do a phone interview. I did a phone interview the next Tuesday morning. In order to prepare for that interview, I pretty much watched as many of Chris's videos on the channel, which he provides, of his interviews with managers, pretty much just anything. He has maybe like 4 or 5 videos of how to get a job with Equinox in the first place. I watched all those as much as I could. When I was driving around, I listened to them like pretty religiously. Consumed all the content that I possibly could to kind of get ready for that interview. So the interview that Tuesday morning, pretty much she was asking like pretty routine questions, just kind of like, so why did you choose personal training? What made you want to get into it? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about some of your background here, as she kind of went over my resume. And as Chris kind of says, like it's really, this kind of first part of the process is just about weeding out, the idiots. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot
of them out there, huh?
Right, right, and just kind of showing that professionalism in the first place and being able to articulate yourself well, and why you're doing what you're doing. So it was very, very formal. The first part of the phone interview. After that, she said that a manager would pretty much get to me in 24 to 48 hours, pretty much give me a call. The manager called me probably an hour after that phone interview.
Dang.
Maybe an hour and a half or something after that interview, and set me up for a in-person, maybe 3 days. I want to say 3 days, sorry, I'm bad with my timelines. But
it's better than I could be.
yeah. They set me up with a in-person interview maybe 3 days later. And I pretty much did the same thing in order to prepare for that one. Watched as much content as I could, which I'm not just saying that because I'm on video. Like I very much so consumed as many of the videos that Chris puts out there. That he says everything that you need to know. But one thing in particular that I did do was I wrote down all of the possible questions that was in the book.
How to become a successful personal trainer.
How to be a successful personal trainer. We didn't have a copy in front of us. So
we sold them all, that's why.
There you go. They sold them all. And
oh, Lord.
Right here.
There we go.
The book. So there's a section in the book where, thank you. pretty much Chris highlights all of the possible questions that you might be asked during an interview. I had a whiteboard and I wrote all those questions down, and then I kind of I improvised what my possible answers would be to those questions. So all it was really for me was practice. It's pretty much game time when you get that interview. Be your best self, of course, be authentic, but Chris has a lot of value to input when it comes to that. So just be professional, kind of display what you learn, but I'll get more to that in a minute. So anyway, so the in-person interview, the way that Equinox supposedly usually does the interviews is in two parts. At this particular club, because I interviewed at 2 Equinox clubs, this first club, they only did 1 interview altogether. So there was no formal part where I pretty much had to be in a suit or anything. I actually went in fitness attire for this first interview. So they requested that of me, for me to do that. The first part of the interview was pretty much just like any other one. They wanted to pretty much do the same thing they did on the phone interview, get to know me, ask me some questions about how I handle conflict, for example, like in my previous customer service experience. Asked what some of my interests are, asked about self-development, things like that. Something I will add, when I found out the name of the person who was going to interview me, I did look him up on LinkedIn.
All right, background.
I was very thorough. I looked him up on LinkedIn just to kind of get an idea of who he is and what he's into. Mm-hmm. I saw that he was into personal development, so I took note of that, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be. I was like, this is gonna be cake for me. So I prepared for that as thoroughly as I possibly could.
Did your homework?
Yes, I did do my homework, and so anyway, it was just pretty much a formal interview at the beginning. After that, we did a practical where he took me out and onto the gym floor, and then had me kind of demonstrate. Sorry, let me rewind. Before the practical, they actually had me write out a program for a hypothetical client. She was like 47 years old. She has like an hour-long commute. She just wants to get more into shape, but she has like a back that gets aggravated easily. That was like the situation pretty much. I wrote out a program for her, asked if, hey, does this client have any injuries, which was important because Chris does mention that. Ask the hypothetical client if they have any injuries before you start, just like you would do a PAR-Q or something. I made sure to check that box off, and then when that was good to go, I pretty much just wrote out the program. Fast forwarding. So then I had to demonstrate a few of those movements, how I would teach that client those movements. I ended up doing a total of 3, and I pretty much just demonstrated that on the floor. I made sure I was engaged. I was cueing the client as much as I possibly could, and pretty much just demonstrated everything that we kind of learned here at the internship, just as far as core movement patterns and stuff like that. I made sure to cover those things. But the practical part of it is pretty much what we practice here for the 2 months during the internship. And then after that interview in particular, they pretty much just said they'd reach out to me in maybe 48 hours. Got an email that they ended up not going with me, which I was like, oh, that sucks. So I, kind of sucked that up and figured out what my next move was going to be. I want to say a day later, I got an email again from the original recruiter that emailed me for the first interview and said, I heard that they didn't go with you. I'm sorry about that, but I did want to refer your information to the should I say the location?
Yeah.
They said, I do want to refer your information to the Huntington Beach location, which is a completely different location, a little bit smaller. And, I said yes, of course, because I still wanted the job, and went forward with that interview. So I'll go into that. Let me drink water first.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk for like an hour straight.
Yeah.
Cut this out.
That's why you never give up. They said no the first time, but he came back and obviously got it.
Yeah.
So keep with it.
So for the second interview process, don't quite remember the timeline. I think it was the same. I think they contacted me mid or the end of the week. And then they wanted to get me in for an interview that upcoming Monday, I believe. This one was a little bit more formal. They did actually do what I had heard of, the two-part of the interview, where the first part of the interview was completely formal. I pretty much went in a suit, looking sharp as best as I could. Had more than 2 resumes. Actually had 10 on me.
You never know.
You never know. It's like, yeah, we have our whole panel of managers here to interview you.
Something small to get spilled on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. More than anything, you just ready to, for the interview as much as possible. I got there an hour early, just because, making sure traffic is not an excuse, because it never is an excuse, especially in a professional setting. That doesn't change when it comes to personal trainers. I mean, you got to make a good impression. That's step number 1. So I got there an hour early. We did a formal interview. It was pretty much the same as the initial interview that I did. However, I will say that this manager gave me a lot less facial feedback as to how I was doing, and it was pretty apparent when at the end of the interview, when I kind of didn't know where I stood. So she was a little more cold. Not, you kind of couldn't tell what she was thinking. So be prepared for that. Not every manager is going to be the same. If you do end up going through a few interviews, just always bring your A game. There's no reason to not bring your A game. So, I just was as confident as I could be in what I was saying, despite the fact that she wasn't giving me much facial feedback. So went through that first interview pretty well. That interview maybe took like 30 minutes. She called me the next day to get me in for the practical, which wasn't guaranteed. She pretty much said, we'll contact you in about 48 hours. But she called me the next day for the practical. I did much of the same that I did with Irvine, and pretty much wrote out a program for a specific kind of client. This time though, the person that I was training actually, I should have mentioned this before. The initial interview, it wasn't an actual client. It was pretty much just a hypothetical situation they put forward, and I demonstrated that on one of the employees. The second one was actually one of their trainers, and he was the one who was doing the role playing and acting as if he was a certain person. He was pretty much acting as himself. And I had to write him out a program given that. And then I had to demonstrate how I would do that for a few movements. I ended up doing maybe 1.5 circuits of demonstration. So of course I didn't take him through a whole hour workout, but I did 1 circuit, and then I got halfway through the second one. After that, they take me back to the manager's office, and I'm on the right track, right?
Yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah.
All right, just making sure. So we go back to the manager's office, and then she pretty much gets feedback from the trainer that I had trained, and I just kind of wait there, and maybe 10 minutes after, she calls me into the office. She gives me the feedback that she got from him. Some of the feedback that I got was that I did look very engaged. I looked like I was adding value pretty much. The things that she was looking for was someone who looks like they want to be at their job, someone who's excited about their job, someone who's actually engaged with a client, and it doesn't kind of look like the attention is drifting anywhere. She made that pretty clear, and she kind of said that I checked all those boxes. That's a big thing, but it's not that complicated, but you got to make sure you do it. She also asked me if I had any questions, pretty much. And,
did you?
I think I did have a question.
Always have a question prepared.
Yeah, that's important. Always have a question. My question in particular, I believe, was, because she did have some feedback where she said the way that I explained some things wasn't exactly the best. And she said that's totally fine, because that wasn't really the issue for her at all. In a nutshell, what they can always teach you. There's things that they can teach you, because they're going to teach you the Equinox way in the first place. And she did make sure to say that. It was like, we're going to teach you certain little kind of things that are important to us, but you had all of the kind of key aspects that we were looking for. So pretty much, she did have some positive feedback. She had the negative feedback, but kind of told me that, it wasn't anything that she was overly concerned about. And I did make sure to ask. I did ask at least one question, I believe.
Good.
Sorry, I don't remember the.
It was that good of a question.
I think I asked another question, but I don't remember if I did. But yes, some things I actually forgot, which I don't know if you want me to mention it now. On the subject of the questions, I did make sure to ask questions. Like I absolutely grilled these managers with questions, but in a way that was relevant to the subject matter, and I also made sure to be considerate of their time. So maybe on the third question, I was like, they still asked me if I had a question, and I was like, I do if you have time. You know, if not, totally fine. You answered my questions really well, but yeah, I have another question. You know, but I definitely asked them this particular question, which was, so what helps a trainer kind of thrive at this location? That was one I for sure always asked them, and then that kind of answered what helps a trainer not thrive at that location, pretty much. And then I also made sure to ask the question, what value have you taken from Equinox since before you started that you have now that you didn't before? I made sure to ask that. And just because,
stump them?
Yeah, actually, I think it did surprise some of them because they kind of didn't expect that. It does take some kind of confidence to ask a manager a question, I think, to some people. Because it's like, you have the audacity to ask, it's like, we're interviewing you, you know? It's like, you're interviewing me back.
You flip the role on them.
Yeah, and you kind of flip that role around a little bit, but it also just kind of shows how engaged you are, and you actually have some kind of stake in this. You want to know what this person, how this person grew from this position, and that, you know, you want to go forward in this position as well yourself. So yeah, I did make sure to engage as much as possible when it came to those questions. So I just wanted to add that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but that mostly kind of covers my experience of it as thoroughly as I possibly can, but I'd love to open the floor to any questions. If you guys have any particular questions, I'm more than happy to answer it.
Let's hear it.
Let's go, let's go.
When it comes to Equinox, from your experience so far, how is the process in terms of you getting clientele? Because I've heard that at Equinox, they really want the trainers to kind of scan the floor and talk to members, whereas at other gyms, they get you the clients, they get you to you. You know what I mean? So is it kind of half and half, or how does that look like at Equinox?
Granted, I haven't started my first day. My first day is on Monday. But I did ask a question kind of pertinent to that. So on the first interview that I had, I asked him pretty much how do you guys get clients here? Because I kind of made it known. I was like, I want to get my 95 sessions as fast as I possibly can, which was one of the questions I asked also. It's like, how fast has someone done their 95 sessions here? And he said maybe within a month was the fastest. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. He was like, are you up to it? I was like, yeah, I am. Yeah. But anyway, so the way that people pretty much get clients there, he said a lot of the time you have to be there. Like sometimes someone calls like for personal training, and just the fact that you're there, even at a time when you don't necessarily have to be there, you know, you're just kind of spending time on the floor because you're prospecting, trying to get clients in the first place. He said sometimes that's all that it is. People will earn new clients just because they're there, and a membership advisor will pretty much just forward them to you. Of course, the canvassing is super important, and making multiple contact points and getting to know everybody, being the mayor of the gym is super important regardless. So he did confirm some of those things that Chris says. But that other tidbit of information was something I don't think is entirely intuitive, but just being there is pretty much a big deal.
Just showing up.
Showing up.
Hey.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Cool.
Do they really work hands-on with you in terms of coming up with a business plan of how you're gonna make whatever type of income you want to make there? Like, are they more hands-on with you about that? Like, this is how many clients you want to train. This is how much the sessions are going to cost in order for you to hit your goals.
Got it. Yeah.
Or do they kind of leave it up to you to?
No, they definitely went over the pay structure.
Okay.
So initially, the first interview, they go over the pay structure to kind of give you an idea of what the ceiling is, and where you can pretty much go and your potential there, which is really good. As far as helping you build that business, there are meetings pretty much weekly, which I'm assuming, I haven't experienced it yet, but from what I got from my interviews is we do have weekly meetings in which we pretty much talk about building business. So yeah, they'll be hands-on with you. one of the questions they asked was, what do you look for in a manager in particular? In both instances, I found that they do value open communication more than anything. So my manager now, who I actually got the job with, she in particular did say one trait that is going to make it so a trainer doesn't thrive is not being able to ask for what they need in the first place. She would much rather kind of understand the situation so she can see how she can help. So.
Receptive are they to ideas of new, say, revenue streams? That's not acceptable. Like, let's say you come in with an idea, or hey, I'm going to do a boot camp here at this time. Notice we don't have that many clients in here at this time. What if we advertise some kind of group setting or a bunch of people, and I'll take them through this, and pay this set amount, et cetera, et cetera. How receptive are they?
To my understanding, they are, but you do have to go through management before it. So I think it's just a matter of presenting ideas from what I read in the handbook. Because I read the employee handbook, not front to back, but I read like the important parts. Yeah, I read the key parts. So pretty much, yeah, you got to run it by management.
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't be.
Yeah. I think one of our past interns, Chris, funny, there's so many Chris's, I think he had the same thing, but you really have to be detailed and informed. Like, it's not like, hey, I have this idea, can we do it? Like, he came up with like how many people are going to be there, the price of it, like the days, like how we can work everything. So if you present an idea, it's got to be well put together that they can go with it, not like, oh, let's figure this out type of thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Go for it.
You'll get their juices flowing.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, going back to the hiring process and the practical part of that, where they had you do the program, like they gave you a hypothetical client and all that. I was just wondering, do you remember what the circuit is that you trained that trainer with and how it went?
Yeah. So the first or the second interview, doesn't matter.
The second where you actually
Whack.
trained one of the trainers.
Copy. That particular circuit, so I was actually only doing 2 movements in the initial circuit.
Superset.
Yeah, it kind of ended up being a superset, but it was pretty much bench press. He was trying to get his bench press up, so that was one of his specific goals. Yeah. He actually said that, so of course I had to make sure that I implemented that. So it was pretty much bench press, and a dumbbell row, because pretty much I could do it all in that same vicinity, and it was simple. I was going to do a plank as well, but I'm not going to lie, I got so into the conversation with him because I was engaging that I actually forgot to add a plank onto the circuit.
Yeah. He probably didn't miss it, so it's all good.
He didn't know, so
Yeah.
it's fine. I wasn't like, oh my God, I forgot a plank.
Yeah.
But it was pretty much a bench press and a dumbbell row. And I just tried to make sure I was as engaged as possible, of course. Giving him verbal cues, using his name at least a couple times. Give that personal aspect to it. Yep. That was pretty much the circuit, nothing crazy special about it.
Gotcha. Okay. Just curious.
He had no injuries, hypothetically, so
Nice.
we were good.
Yeah.
Did the first Equinox give you feedback on why they didn't hire you?
No. And I think I should have asked, to be completely honest. It wouldn't have hurt to do so, just to reach out to them and see why they didn't go forward. But I think I received an email. I think I said it was the next day, but it might have been 2 days after. So I wasn't really at the point yet where I was like, oh, I want to know why I didn't get it. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I ended up not having to ask them. I think I probably will anyway, just so I have an idea.
Well, didn't you say that one of them said it was probably because they already had too many trainers there?
That was actually Chris.
Oh, that's
Yeah, that's good. That's
He knows
Chris's
all
fault.
though. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's everywhere.
So, yep.
Any idea what it might have been?
The need for trainers.
I would have to say, because what Chris mentioned that it most
Yeah.
likely was pretty much they had too many trainers there, which I could probably confirm because I looked at their trainer wall at each Equinox I went to. That one in particular had maybe like 30 trainer cards on their wall. Granted, it's like it was a 5-story 5-story gym. Okay, so it's a large space. So maybe it's proportional, but I would say that's most likely why. The one I actually got the job at, they had a much smaller trainer wall. So I'm guessing they were, they just needed staff more than anything. So.
How large were I imagine you were doing those interviews with other people.
Oh, actually, no, that's a great question. So I think in the past they might have conducted group interviews, but I did not experience that at all. It was, every interview was just me. So there's no one to compete against, no one to look better against.
Than yourself.
It was me, yeah, I mean, I just had to be as professional and look good when I was on the floor. And so yeah, it was just myself, pretty much. I was ready though if there was going to be more people. I was prepared for that mentally, but makes it a little easier for me personally. Just depends on what setting you kind of thrive in. I prefer if I can shine individually. I don't mind. So.
I'd say we're not being an employee there, but I was just curious what the pay rate is at Equinox.
So it's pretty much minimum wage until you make a certain until you start working sessions.
Yeah.
So I got hired on as a tier two trainer. I guess they used to have a tier 1 trainer, but I don't think they do it anymore. I don't think it's a position. So I got hired as a tier 2. My beginning rate is pretty much per session. As I move up in tiers, which is a process in itself, that kind of requires that you pass certain tests within the Equinox kind of curriculum, as well as meeting, I think, some kind of threshold, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm not as clear on that. But your pay per session moves up as you move up in tiers. But there's also a bottom row where within your tier, you can actually move up in rate as well, depending on how many sessions you average per week.
Okay.
Yeah, and those sessions, per month. But the minimum you want to hit is 95 pretty much, 95 sessions a month. Once you hit that, I'm just kidding.
Don't worry, that's why we got these.
Once you hit that amount of sessions, then I think you become eligible for that bottom row where you can make more money.
And then let's say if you don't have, obviously you have to build up the clientele in the sessions, but let's say if you aren't training, do you still get an automatic 40 hours a week on minimum wage, or do you only get paid for when you're training? You know what I mean?
Yes. So from what I was told, I'll have 25. There's a ramping up period at the beginning where you're pretty much they're taking you through the onboarding process, of course, just teaching you the Equinox ways, of course. And you'll have floor hours where pretty much you'll just be on the floor. I'm guessing you're canvassing, as well as doing like any kind of floor maintenance, making sure all the facilities are clean. I believe there's a checklist in which you have to kind of do certain duties, and I'm guessing they allocate a time where I get to call leads and stuff. But 25 hours to my understanding, and it is minimum wage for those hours, for non-session hours is what they call it. Session hours you get paid differently. So there's a few different streams of income as a trainer there.
It's not bad. A lot of other box gyms, if you're not training, you're not making money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You do actually have.
Imagine if I'm not training, I don't get guaranteed 25 hours.
Right. Yeah. So you do get floor hours. I mean, there's times. What I heard from someone else's experience in another video is he had his book of business build up, and then he actually dropped back down because it got super slow. He didn't have as big of a book of business, and he actually had to work floor hours again for a bit until he finally got his clientele back up. So yeah, they do kind of have that floor there. I mean, obviously you don't want to be there, but
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, they have some kind of foundation
Yeah.
there, of some kind.
So that would be
My resume.
that would be this question coming from someone who's not from here. Is that 7 something an hour, or is that it's different?
Oh, yeah.
What?
13 bucks an hour.
It's actually 14.
I think
It's
it's
14 there.
increased. Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. You said 7. I was like, where are you working? Oh, they've been telling you wrong.
It's seven. I think it's like $7.95. It might be just about $8 now. I'm not sure.
Oh,
It's 14 here, but it's a lot more expensive.
it's more, yeah, so there's that, yeah.
So you only, only give you 8 to 25 hours per week?
At the minimum. But I did make sure to ask them, like, do you guys have anything against us being here all the time? Which again is another thing Chris mentioned. Like, that's a very
Be there when
specific
you're-
question you
yeah.
could ask to kind of show them that you're dedicated. And of course the answer is no. Like, they totally encourage trainers to be there on the floor and even training and working out themselves as much
Yeah.
as possible. 'Cause
Definitely.
that's how you make those points of contact and get to
Yeah.
know people and become the mayor of the gym. So, yeah. But to my understanding, it's 25 hours.
You can be there all day if you want, but you only get paid 25 hours.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you put in the work, so you do all that work for those days, it'll pay off. Yeah, you make your own luck.
Pretty much the way I think about it is like every moment that I can take to kind of build the book of business is the faster I'll get there, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, being there all the time, it's not really going to work against you. It's pretty much an investment.
Yeah. I mean, we like the gym anyways, right? Get a workout in.
Down?
People see you work
I'll sleep in
out.
the squat rack.
Yeah.
Right, baby.
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad to me.
Fine by me.
Yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, the 25 hours is, to my understanding, is what it is.
Until you build that book of business.
Till you build that book of business. Yeah.
And do you know what's the process to get to the tier number 2? You have to wait a month, or you just jump in?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, so you become eligible at some point to kind of take a. So Equinox has a in-house education curriculum. So you become eligible to kind of take whatever tests that entails at some point. Sorry, I don't remember exactly when, but once you're eligible to do that, you can pretty much you can just go forward and try to get to that next tier. So yeah.
You know, have tears and
Yeah, I mean, anytime they ask me, they're like, so why Equinox? That was one of my top points, was you guys have in-house education. I mean, who offers that?
Yeah. There's growth, yeah.
Absolutely free.
like the fact that you guys have weekly meetings, like
Yeah.
at my gym, I think there are 4 months we haven't had one single meeting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's good to express those things too, because I mean, if you're genuinely gushing over the brand, they're going to see that enthusiasm. You know, they're going to be like, oh, this guy wants to be here, right? So make sure to express that if you can. They'll give you a chance to do it too.
Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any questions,
Oh,
you have something?
I think there's one more thing I should.
Okay, because I was gonna
I
ask.
actually forgot to say, in both interviews, there was actually a last portion where they had me interview with an ops manager, but that part of the interview was very formal as well. So it was kind of, it wasn't anything kind of crazy that you haven't prepared for the initial interview, but they have you interview with the ops manager just to, I think they kind of just want to see, you know, how you function as well, and they want to make sure that you're kind of what they're looking for as well. So that first interview, that was tagged on to the very end of the session. On the second time I interviewed, that was tacked on to the last of the practical session. And it was really quick because the ops manager was very busy. So he pretty much just took 5 minutes to ask me the main questions. Why Equinox? Why personal training? What are some of your goals? Like stuff, very like important big picture questions. And that was pretty much it. So that's kind of what, sorry, I forgot to tag that on. Yeah, so
Okay.
ops manager, that's gonna be part of the interview.
Cool. What are your guys' takeaways from this right now? When it comes into this? Be prepared. Professionalism. Exactly. Be yourself. Do your homework. Like you said, this man did his homework. The manual. He looked up the guy on LinkedIn. Like, you have to know information in there. You can't go in there just saying, hey, I want the job. You have to show why you want the job, why you're going to be a good fit for the company, what you can do for them, what you can provide them. They could hire anyone, but why are you specifically going to help them get better already? Any other things?
I was gonna say, I'm a little bit upset that the main location in Phoenix is closed.
Dang.
Permanently?
Yes.
Ah,
That's a bummer.
It's set up Google permanently closed.
That's a bummer.
dang.
Kind of harsh. No, it definitely took away from that. What I've already been some of the questions that I've already been thinking about how to answer.
Yeah.
Trying to try for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd like to stay a month, but I think it's going to be, I'm going to at least send out my resume earlier than that. And try to get the process going before the end of the internship instead of right at the end, so that I want to try to put it down and get it in the weeds.
There you go.
But yeah, very, very insightful. Very helpful. Thank you.
No, of course. I do highly recommend practicing like your answers to the questions
Yeah.
as much as possible. Because I mean, if you're prepared, they can't really catch you off guard.
Yeah.
And if they do finally happen to catch you off guard, you've been so on every single question that
They won't even.
it doesn't
yeah.
really, it's not a huge deal. And you can be candid and just be like, oh wow, that's a really good question. Give me a moment to think about that.
Yeah.
What are they gonna say? No. Answer now. Answer right now. They're not gonna say that. But they will be very, very impressed probably by your level of preparation. So definitely practice.
To prepare for the questions, you just looked up Chris's YouTube videos and
How to be a successful personal trainer.
Exactly. That book, man.
Very much so. No, 100%. I did. I went through all the questions that they could possibly ask and made sure I had an answer for each one.
Gotcha.
And yeah, watch the videos. Watch the videos. Watch the videos. Watch the videos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you guys ever want help, we can always go through mock trials so I can be the interview. Yeah. So we can always do that. Make sure that you guys are well prepared as well. Look at your resume, do everything.
Are we all going to be Equinox trainers after this? Or?
Oh. Is he? He look, you're a recruiter right now, huh?
Before I wanted to, and now after this, I really want to. Like after hearing about the tiers and how professional they are,
Sure.
how they have weekly meetings, like we don't have any of this at my gym. So
Right.
I'm really attracted to
Hey, all they had to say was 100K. I was like,
That's all I'm gonna say. Drop it.
not bad.
Yeah.
how many digits?
Exactly.
I like that dollar amount, and I like the fact that, well, the meetings, the weekly meetings, I feel like that would create an environment where it's very about helping each other and helping improve each other.
She explicitly said that actually, that's kind of what their club is about. Like we all help one another. It's not dog eat dog. Like if you want to ask somebody a question and refer to them, like that's what we're about.
I appreciate that quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Well, I have just questions for you. When it comes to NASM, obviously, after you took the test, do you think you would have been prepared for any of that? How to program for that client? No.
maybe.
Maybe, really?
Maybe.
Yeah, just a little
but
bit.
I'm much more confident with the internship.
Much more confident, yeah. Exactly. Because that's the whole idea from this, like we can help you pass NASM, but more importantly, we want to give you the confidence to be able to go into interviews like this, knowing that you know your anatomy, how to program, sales, like everything. Because we don't want you guys being caught off guard, not knowing what you're doing, and then the next time you come and you have this opportunity, you completely bomb and fail it.
Yeah.
So we're here for you guys. All you guys got to do is show up, all right? Out of here. Thank you. Signing off, and like I said before, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram at ACT7VE, as well as at SHOWUP Fitness and at SHOWUP Fitness Internship. Now remember, we're online, in person, and we have seminars. There's no excuse for you guys not to show up, all right?